Hey, Shalom. I'd like to give all praises, all glory, all honor to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahawashi, Bahashem Racha Akwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful light that are scattered across the four corners of the earth. I want to make this quick video going into the term Christians and what the term actually means. I was watching a video of the elder Manat Tazakba in South Carolina, I believe, and he brought up Acts 11 and 26 when referring to really the true Christians or who the true Christians are. Now, according to the Bible, if you believe in the Bible and that's your religion, so to speak, then you would become a Christian, right? Because a Christian is those who follow Christ. Now, of course, we don't like to use that name because the true names of the Son is Yahawashi Hamashiach, which Hamashiach means the Messiah or the Anointed. We don't use that term Christ because that goes back to Jesus Christus, which is that it's a different name, and with a different name comes a different power, a different God. So I want to pull up this verse in Acts 11, and I want to start at 20 because there's something that I wanted to point out as well. It says, and some of them were men of Cyprus and Cyrene, which, when they were come to Antioch, they spake unto the Grecians, preaching the Lord Yahushai. Okay, now when you read it in the NLT, it says the Grecians. It says Cyprus and Cyrene began preaching to the Gentiles. Now the Gentiles that's a big controversy within the Bible because they think that the Gentiles are anyone that's outside of the nation of Israel coming into the fold and believing in the Word, in the Son, and that our sins may be forgiven if we believe in the Son. But what the world doesn't understand is that the Gentiles are still Israelites. Okay, that lost that original custom because they didn't grow up in the customs of an Israelite household where you were taught the Torah, you were taught certain customs. um, you were a Hebrew Israelite. You understood who you were, you understood who your power was. But the Gentiles, they're still Israelites, but you got to remember that that Israel was scattered across the four corners. So you're going to have Israelites in all four corners, in all parts of the earth. And that includes them being born and brought up in these different nations, under these different idols and under these different gods and religions and their language. And even as you, procreate within these places, you're going to get you a wife that if you're in these different parts of the world, you're going to have children with the women that are around you in those certain parts of the world. So over time, you start to mix and mingle with the heathens, and now you got the Israelites. As generations go by, you got Israelites who are born in these heathenistic ways, and sometimes they even look like heathens because we've been scattered. So our seed has been mingled, with different nations. So we come out looking different. We don't look how we're supposed to look, as far as what it looked like in the ancient world, at least. There wasn't as much as mixing and mingling as there is today, because today is I mean, everyone is just everything. And even if you ask a person what are you, like what's your ethnicity or whatever, they tell you like 5 6 different things, and it's all folly because it's like you are what your father is. But I don't mean to go off topic, but going back to the Gentiles, I'm gonna look up that word. So the Grecians. Now the Grecians are the Greeks. Okay, so Cyprus and Cyrene, when they were come to Antioch, spake unto the Grecians, preaching our Lord Yahushai. They were preaching the gospel of Yahushai, right, to the Grecians. When you look up that word Grecians, okay, and I'm looking this up in the Blue Letter Bible. This is the New Testament was translated in Greek. So when you look up that word Grecians in Greek, that word is Hellenistus. Okay, Hellenistus. It means to be a Hellenist, right? One who imitates the manners and customs or the worship of the Greeks and use the Greek tongue. Used in the New Testament of Jews born in foreign lands and speaking Greek. And who are the Jews? The Israelites. Okay? So so you had the Gentiles, which are Israelites, they grew up in the customs of the Greeks. They grew up worshiping the gods of the Greeks, and they were taught the Greek language. So therefore, they became Hellenized because they're no longer an Israelite following Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, understanding that they are Hebrew and speaking Hebrew. No, they ended up speaking Greek and following that whole custom. Okay, and that whole thing happened. You could read about that in the Apocrypha in the first Maccabees, right? That was because before the Roman captivity in the book of Matthews, there was the Greek captivity where a lot of Israel became Hellenized, and that's why you get the Gentile talk. Neither Greek nor Jew, I believe, is how it's worded in the New Testament. It's not talking about just Greeks and Jews. No, because there's other nations on this planet. Those Greeks are still Israelites, but they're Gentiles, and the Jews are the Israelites who know they're Israelites that grew up in the customs. And these are like, you know, in the New Testament, like the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the teachers, the priests, you know. And then let me look up the root word Hellen, right? A Greek, either by nationality, whether a native of the main and or of the Greek islands or colonies. No. In a wider sense, the name embraces all nations, not Jews. See, this is folly because it's not all nations. It's still the nation of Israel. Right? But Hellenistus, right? One who imitates, okay? And when you go to Acts 11 and 26, now we're getting to the topic of the whole Christian thing. Because to be a Christian really is to be an Israelite, because we follow the Messiah, Hamashiach, the Messiah. If anything, the way to say Christians in Hebrew is, um, um, you could say Yasharalium, because Yashar Allah is Israel, right? He is Prince of the Power, Israel, Yashar Allah, Yashar Aliyam, right? To make it plural, more than one. So an Israelite, Israel, and then you have Israelites. Same with like the Messiah, Hamashiach. I guess you could say we could be called Hamashiachim or Mashiachim, because Mashiach is Messiah. The Ha in the beginning is the, but then you add the Yum to make it plural, Mashiachim, right? We're followers of the Messiah. We follow Yahushai. You see, so the Christians, and they were called Christians in this verse. It says Acts 11:26. And, oh shit, I gotta get the word. And when he had found him, he brought him unto Antioch. And it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church and taught much people. Excuse me. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. Now that's a term that was used as a, what's the word, like a bad name, like a bad term, because you had these people coming from different parts, and they're all believing in the Yahweh Shai. They're believing in the testimony of Yahweh Shai. So the people around them saw them as I can't think of the word right now, but it was sort of like a mocking name. Like, look at those Christians. Oh, look at those men that follow Yahweh Shai, who was crucified, who was humiliated. You see, those are those men right there. They're Christians. That's what they ended up calling them. So that term was actually used as a mocking, like a form of mockery. You see, because we believed in Yahweh Shai, and you had Gentiles even today. Like, for example, I myself, I'm kind of fair skinned. You know what I mean? I don't, it's like I may not look entirely like an Israelite should look. You know what I mean? As far as like the complexity, the brown complexity, and it's a look to certain nations, right? Like I may look like different. I've been told I look like different, all kinds of different nations. Well, at least like two or three that cycle that people think I am, and it's like when I first came into this truth, right? One of the one of what's the word? Um, One of the ignorant things that the people would say is, like you're with these you're with these so-called Negroes, so-called black, right? I hate, to say those words just because of Esau, the way he just tampers with these words and stuff like that. But they looked at me at a part of this group, and I got made fun of, or I was mocked, because they're like, look at you. You know what I mean? Like, look at you. Like, you look out of place, right? You're following these people. You're worshiping this idol, yada yada. But it's like, y'all don't know shit, because this is the true church of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, and it's not a color thing either. So you get people, now we're coming into a time where you're getting the northern kingdom that are coming back, right, to the fold. Ezekiel 37, the two planks, the two woods shall become one plank, which is the northern and southern kingdom. So now you got people who are coming together in the name of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. But when you look at their group, like when you see it from a carnal standpoint, you got, so-called black people, you got so-called Mexican people, so-called Native American people. But even within the northern, southern, and northern kingdom, we look different. Like especially northern kingdom. Northern kingdom can really pass off as in like other nations, just because of how we've all been mixed and mingled. You see, so you have people that don't look like the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, but they are, because they believe, and they're within this church. They're within the congregation. So that's in today's time. That's the people that are walking by, seeing this group of these, like, just this, like a random group, what I mean, of these people coming together, preaching Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, and they scoff and they mock and all that stuff, but it's the same thing. So that's what's going on in this passage. Look at those Christians, because at that time they're like, look at these people. You got people coming in from everywhere, people looking different, and they all preaching, following, Yahushai, which they were, at that time it's like, he was crucified, he was mocked, like that whole ordeal had already passed, right? So that's those same people that are calling us Christians, mocking us. But we live in a time where that whole Christian thing, Esau has completely taken over. And when the average person hears about Christian, someone who's Christian, they think, oh, they believe in the Bible, the Holy Bible. That's their religion. They're Christian. You see, they're Christians. They follow Christianity and they follow Jesus, and that's not the case. The true Christians, the Mashiachim, or Yasharalim, the Israelites, the Christians are the Israelites. You see, I just wanted to bring that point out. I don't want to edify. Shalom.